Miss Dot, as we were chatting earlier, I had mentioned, I believe I've seen you up here at the events dressed up in period uniform. It looks wonderful. And I was asking how you got involved with the association and particularly the park. I understand that you used to come up here when you were a child.
I did. My granddaddy used to bring me and my brother up to the mountain. He came to buy peaches from Mr. Dick King, who had a big peach orchard up here on the mountain at that time. And this was back in the 30s now. And Papa always wanted to tour the old cemetery when we were up here. And we lived about 8 or 10 miles away. But I was interested in the mountain from childhood, really, and I never dreamed that I'd be living here in my old age. But my husband and I moved to the foot of the mountain and renovated the house down there in 1986. And my husband was just aghast at the condition of the cemetery and the grounds up here. He was from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he kept trying to figure out in his mind what he could do to help preserve the history that is up here. So when some of us got our heads together and met and just accidentally really formed the LaGrange Living Historical Association, and we tried to clean up the cemetery, as I stated earlier, first. And we had a good turnout when we had the first memorial service on Sunday afternoon.
What year was that?
That was 1988. And we had such a large turnout for that, we decided, well, we ought to do this every year. And we named it Recall LaGrange, our event that we would have. And so about the second or third year after we were organized, NACOG furnished a bus to bus people up the mountain because we didn't have adequate parking here on top, you know, and they had to park down across from the old tabernacle. And their count, they counted 15,000. So we had that many people show up. And each year, you know, it grew larger for several years. The Recall LaGrange event, which is always in around May.
Now, the first Recall LaGrange event you had, if I remember correctly, it was a living history event where local people would portray a character by each one of the graves.
Yes.
And people, how would that work? People would tour?
Right. They would, we usually set a time for each event we were going to have, you know, and when we had the cemetery tour, we'd say maybe it would be at 2 o'clock. And I portrayed one of the characters that's buried up there. And that in itself is an interesting story about the cemetery. But our reenactments have continued through the years, living histories in the early part of May usually. We do it to commemorate the burning of the college and the burning of the homes, you know. And we have pretty large crowds still turn out after 20-something years.
So I guess the interest in preserving the cemetery was actually the beginning of the association?
It was.
In the late 80s?
It really was.
When you used to come up here with your dad to get peaches, were there any structures left on the mountain from the school itself?
No, there was nothing left but the little caretaker's home was over there, and the monument and the picnic site, because back in the 50s, one of the local men that was in the legislature had, he was instrumental in getting the monument and the picnic shelter, and that was all that was up here, and that was in the 50s. And in the 30s, when we used to come, and 40s, there really wasn't anything then.
So what led to the decision to try to recreate a Civil War era village on the mountain? What was that? What sparked that first building to come in?
Well, I guess the Welcome Center was the first building actually that we got erected, and because we had a lot of visitors coming to the mountain, and we felt like we needed something to, a place for them to view what we had acquired. A lot of people turned in LaGrange relics to us that they had secured a Bible, for instance, that had been in the college entrance hall at the college. Jeffers family, Mr. Jeffers had took that Bible out when they said that the Union troops was headed up from Tuscumbia, and that they were looting and burning, and so the people around here wanted to try to save as much as they could. Some of them took cots out of the dormitories.
Wow.
They gave us a cot. We got the Bible. Just a lot of historical items that is priceless today.
It is. It sounds like the whole community has a real interest in preserving their heritage. How did they become aware that y'all were in a position to accept donations like the items?
After the association formed and we started having monthly meetings, the people in the community became members. We gained more and more members from the original. There was 12 or 15 of us that was charter members, and we started having good turnouts for the meetings, and more and more people started turning in items to us. We had a lady that I believe she lived in California. She was en route to Florida, and she had a picture of when the cadets met in 1906, I believe it was.
Oh my.
And she left this picture up at Moulton, Alabama. She didn't know where LaGrange was, and so the man from Moulton called, and L.C. Lenz, our president now, and some of the men went up there and got that photograph of the cadets that still live that served in the Civil War.
Oh, that's priceless, isn't it?
It is.
So you were one of the charter members of the association.
Yes, I was.
Over the years, what positions have you held?
Well, I was secretary and treasurer, a board member for many, many years. And then my daughter that lived in Florida moved back home, and she became a board member when I had to retire.
But you're still actively involved, right?
Well, I try to help when I can. I'll be 85 my birthday, so I have to try to let the younger ones take over.
You supervise more now, right? Well, what do you see as the future for the LaGrange site?
Well, I hope the younger generations will take the interest that all of us older people have had all these 28 years and carry on for generations to come, so people will know about the history of LaGrange, that the college stood here, and that it was called the West Point of the South, and that was a very active place on the mountain. And then when the Union troops burned it, it was a very sad time for the people that lived here. And I hope the younger generations will step up and preserve this,
For their kids and their future.
Right.
Well, you played an important part in preserving that. We thank you.
Well, it's been a real joy, a labor of love, as I said, to be involved up here. And we're quite proud of what has been accomplished this far,
All by volunteers, it is
Right.
amazing what you've
There's
done.
no paid workers or anything. Everybody volunteered for everything that was ever accomplished. My husband and I picked up the tin, or the medal, for one of the buildings. We had to go way past Florence to get it, and on our way back we had it on a trailer behind our pickup truck, and that metal shifted, and it was about to go off the trailer, and we just almost wrecked trying to get it here. So we had some perilous times going on as well as fun times.
Well, you have about almost a dozen buildings up here, so I'm sure there were a lot of interesting incidents, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for meeting with us this
Well,
morning.
thank you.